Hello, mate. Welcome on back. Settle in and get comfortable. Pour yourself a drink, and let's have some good old football therapy over this here international break, where we all collectively can take a big deep breath and try and analyse what is Chelsea at the moment. Where are we? What's going on? There's briefing all over the gaff, as you would expect after turbulent negative results from Chelsea Football Club. A sort of identity crisis that you'd have to say is kind of like come to a fever pitch. Dismal results, 4 losses in a row, but players going away with their international teams, hopefully having a reset so they can start playing football well again. A few things to make us smile. We've seen like pictures of Thomas Tuchel hugging Cole Palmer with the England camp, and that's like a nice little warm dopamine hit, if not just for a fleeting second. But today on Football Therapy, we are going to react to an article on The Athletic by Liam Twomey, speaking about Rosenior and how BlueCo need him to work. Doesn't feel like it's working, does it, guys? Speaking about the sporting directors and what comes next. And I don't need to tell you guys, there's huge unrest within the Chelsea fan base, and I kind of get it. It does feel like it's been like percolating up to sort of this moment. I must say, like, I felt really miserable last season when we had those like multiple losses against Brighton, that you would have watched my content here or listened and be like, oh yeah, Jan's bummed, man. And that was like my sort of like nadir of that season. And I guess we've sort of been here after Everton for that 3-0 loss. Like, simply not good enough and not any real positive reflection of what they've built. This, say, ownership as a whole, but probably more immediately the sporting hierarchy. So we're going to hop onto this here, gang. Chelsea need Liam Rosenior to succeed. He is their most blue coach hire yet. Of course, you will not get a more BlueCo hire than Liam Rosenior from now. And obviously, I do feel bad for him sometimes, man. I was really rooting for him big time. Listening to him speak and learning about his past, and I like his politics and just generally a lot about him. And I understand the comparisons to Graham Potter, but I don't think he is as soft as Graham Potter. He's got way more conviction. Potter was a little bit like shrugged his shoulders and like, oh, we'll try our best, see how we get on sort of vibes. When Liam's like, nah, we need to do this, we need to win with Chelsea, which is, talk is cheap. It's Chet Faker song, that great song. Talk is cheap, my darling, when you're managing Chelsea. Didn't say that, but yeah. So Liam Twomey writes the following. We'll do a little bit of screen sharing for those of you who are watching the content. With 91 minutes on the clock at the Hill Dickinson Stadium on Saturday. Oh, great. Thanks for taking me back. And his team were 3-0 down to Everton. The TV camera found Chelsea head coach Liam Rosenior seated in the dugout, staring up away to his left, seemingly lost in his thoughts. He then suddenly pulled himself back into the moment and rose abruptly to his feet, striding to the touchline to shout at his despondent players. The entire football internet seemed to reach the same conclusion at the same time. Quote, Liam Rosenior realised the cameras were on him, then got up to pretend to coach Chelsea. One user said, posting on X, the footage which ranked up more than 300,000 views. You see that? Yeah, you've probably seen it. He's watching on, people think he realises he's on a big screen, and then he gets up and sort of marches towards the touchline to sort of coach. Now, listen to the following. It did not matter that there was zero evidence that Rosenior was looking at an image of himself on the stadium's big screen, since the screens inside the football stadiums do not tend to run the TV feed. Yeah, I mean, you guys, many of you who's been to the Bridge or other stadiums, you'll know that the feed on the big screens in the stadium aren't like the director's Premier League feeds. So, but it doesn't matter because, at this point, he's just a target, isn't he? He's like a sort of David Brent, Jake Humphries, high performance, diary of a CEO, PE teacher stuff like that. He was always going in with a little bit of that, especially with the old footage of the man age stuff coming to pass. The respect the ball is an absolute own goal from him. You can't say respect the ball You cannot, I don't care. You can't say respect the ball. I don't care if the ball has been proven to be sentient and sat down with someone at Chelsea and said he's been feeling the lack of respect. Even if that's all true, you cannot say respect the ball. And at that point now, he could have just been looking up and... Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Now it doesn't matter if it's true or false. He's just a target of criticism. Poor guy. I do feel bad for him now. Nor did it matter when he was the most likely telling his team to adapt how to play down with 10 men when he slipped a note to a bemused-looking Alejandro Garnacho who came on as a substitute in the final minutes of the PSG game. Of course, when they had made all their substitutions, and Trevo Chalobah was stretching off. So basically, he was shouting, the players couldn't hear him. You could hear it afterwards, his voice was like... And he just literally needed to get a note to the other side of the pitch. But again, he's just a target for banter. All that mattered to observers in each case was their most ridiculous possible interpretation of the footage, the one that best fueled the rapid and seemingly unstoppable transformation of Rosenior from an admittedly quirky football manager into a walking football meme. Yeah, does feel like he's there, doesn't he? I mean, there is loads of that with Mikel Arteta. Like, he's hella weird. He is like the Spanish David Brent with the brain and the heart and all that kind of stuff and the light bulb and, you know, hiring pickpockets at, you know, the events and stuff. Like, he's hella weird, Mikel Arteta, but I was going to say hasn't got the trophies to prove it. He will after the season, sadly. This would be suboptimal for Chelsea, even if results were good, of course, of which they're not, gang. But regular wins would at least allow them and Rosenior to laugh off these references to the, quote, LinkedIn Liam and the like. With this season on the brink of unravelling, by the way, gang, it is on the brink of unravelling. Like, blessed are the... Never I thought I'd say this. Blessed are the international breaks in terms of saving our season. But we are on the brink of unravelling. With the season on the brink of unravelling after 4 consecutive defeats across all competitions, it is a big problem on the success of this particular head coach than any of their previous appointments. Rosenior is the 4th new permanent Chelsea head coach of the post-Abramovich era, and undoubtedly the most identifiably BlueCo appointment yet. It is true, gang. Graham Potter was hired directly by co-owners Bowley and Bedadik Barley several months before the sporting directors Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart assumed their roles. Because Potter does seem like the next most BlueCo guy, but he wasn't hired by the sporting directors. Pochettino was Winstanley and Stewart's first and most conventionally logical head coach appointment. But he was an outsider, and the brevity of the contract he was given, only 2 years guaranteed, always suggested that he was never seen as a likely long-term leader of the BlueCo project. Yeah, it was kind of like a marriage of convenience, and I suppose the end of Pochettino, this is me speaking, not Twomey, was a really amicable split. Apparently they decided over 2 days, they went for lunch, they sort of split the end of the day, their meeting and discussion, they met up again the next day and they spoke about it and they were like, yeah, it's best not to carry on. So they all sort of shook hands, thanked each other. You know, we were back in some form of Europe. We thought it was Europa League, but we were obviously pushed down into the conference. But, you know, we're back into Europe. Parma did well. It wasn't good enough. Pochettino didn't want to work within the confines of the sporting directors, so everyone just said, yeah, you know, we've sort of helped each other here. Pochettino's reputation intact, slight improvement from Chelsea from the Potter disaster. Everyone moved on, but yeah, that was like the only amicable one, I think. Maybe Potter after 7 months, but he was probably like, yeah, this isn't working. See you later. So Enzo Maresca's appointment was something different. It was emblematic of BlueCo's wider commitment to the Pep Guardiola school of positional play, and the Italians' pre-existing relationships with the growing number of Manchester City alumni in Chelsea's squad and staff were viewed as beneficial for establishing a clear identity on the pitch. So all nice in theory, you silly knobbers, but in practice, I mean, well, Maresca had a good first season, that's undoubtable. I just mean this, like, ideas of, Man City Academy, a kindergarten teacher, or someone who's capable of like schooling children as a Chelsea head coach. The choice of Rosenior to replace Maresca at the very least is a doubling down, and perhaps even the ultimate vote of self-confidence in what Chelsea have built over the last 3 years. These man on your screen, for those of you on Spotify and YouTube, by the way, Spotify, just search Football Therapy Podcast, and you can watch the video as well. If you have Spotify Premium, you might be interested in doing so. These guys, look at these, man. Look how happy with themselves they are. Like a couple of unhelpful, arrogant testicles. Sorry. He looks particularly happy with himself, that knobber. Go back to Brighton. Got nice white teeth, though. Wonder what toothpaste he uses. I don't, but I've just drunk coffee. Maresca's connections and football worldwide made him a natural BlueCo adopter. Maresca. He still had that sort of Italiano grit, though, didn't he? Where he didn't want to be shackled down. Maybe a bit Conte-esque, you might say. But Rosenior, the coach, was practically born into it, moulded by it. All right, Bane, chill out. What's this writing by Twomey? I was born in it, moulded by it. It's like Rosenior, like the ultimate BlueCo boy, saying Maresca, you were merely adapted by the BlueCo. I was born in it, moulded by it. Yeah, that is quite literally the opposite way how Rosenior speaks. The relationship between Stewart and Rosenior dates back to when they were both at Hull City, more than a decade ago. Oh, that's nice, isn't that sweet? Rosenior was a player and Stewart was head of performance analysis. You know, when Stanley then got to know Rosenior during their time at Brighton. Lovely, lovely Brighton. We love those muggy little effing seagulls, don't we? When Stanley then got to know Rosenior during their time, just read that, Rosenior was handpicked to succeed Patrick Vieira at sister club Strasbourg in the summer of 2024. It feels so much longer ago than that. But here we are. And for some time has been viewed as a potential head coach for Chelsea in the future. In the future, gang. In the future. Not now. I think that was kind of like, as he was hired, I was like going into, I suppose, detail about how I feel about Rosenior, looking at, Strasbourg, how he sort of overperformed, how he's good with young players, how he's coaching, like, Andre Santos, and that might be good for him, and, I've read some of these articles that he published, and I heard him speak, and I thought, yeah, I actually quite like him. It was just the job feels like it's coming too soon for him, but, and he had a good start. And, all this, like, points per game average stuff you're hearing from Matt Law, The Telegraph, is completely skewed because he had a good start and a bad recent performance. And you have to judge Chelsea where they are, not where they were. So, it started well. I was quite pleased for him because I like him. But it's bad. Now, hold on, someone's at my door. Never mind. It was the postman. Yes, so too soon for old LinkedIn Lim. Fast forward to January, and Rosenior alone could present proof of concept for operating under the unique BlueCo leadership structure, a structure that both Pochettino and Maresca ultimately chafed against in public. Ooh, that chafes. That, coupled with his style of play, marked him out as the least risky choice despite his lack of experience as an elite player or coach. Or player. Player's that's a bit mean. I mean, both him and Maresca had similar level careers. Maybe Maresca had a little bit more high profile. Yeah. I think, not that anyone agreed, like there was loads of dissent against the hiring and the appointment of Liam Rosenior. I get it. But I also understand how he was the least risky appointment mid-season. I mean, Nizar Kinsella of the BBC did an article, I believe, today, speaking about how Maresca sort of walked away from Chelsea, sort of basically quit. I think, was it was it Matt Law that sort of said he self-destructed, sort of set fire to his position. It wasn't like Chelsea sacking him, but you know, the lot of Chelsea fans will highlight the hierarchy, the sporting hierarchy made the job like near unmanageable or unmanageable to be the Chelsea team we all want. It's like winning machine, right? But I do think that it just reeks of arrogance from the sporting hierarchy that they just think they know better. Like, you can have ideas, you can be disruptors, you can sort of influence some stuff, your finance people can do loopholes and, you know, navigate financial sanctions and fines and breaching rules. Great, good job, disruptors, look at you with your different things. Look how different you are. But when it comes to what we've built on the pitch, which of course is most important, it's dysfunctional and disappointing. Yes. Prizing potential over proven pedigree, great alliteration there, Liam, is nothing new for this Chelsea ownership, but the contrast with what preceded them remains startling. During his 19-year tenure, Abramovich appointed 3 different coaches who were already Champions League winners. 3 of BlueCo's 4 Chelsea head coach hires have never coached a game in the competition until they stood at Stamford Bridge's home dugout. Yeah, and you got people like Danny Finkelstein, or Stein, however you say it, on the board saying there's like managers don't matter. I firmly disagree with that one, I must say. The issue with that is most coaches, whether old, young, established or emerging, tend to stand or fall on the strength of their results in the short term. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Results are king, gang. All the signs are that Rosenior is working as can't say it. Slow run up, walk towards it slowly, Anik. Collaboratively. Why can't I say just some simple words sometimes? As expected at Chelsea, and the message coming out of Stamford Bridge is that BlueCo are inclined to stick with him, even if the season does not end in Champions League qualification. Let's just take a pause there for a moment. I'm sorry, gang. Mr. Positive Football Therapy Yannick, Mr. Patient, Mr. Persistent. I think if we come out of the international break and if we lose to Port Vale, sack him! There is firstly no room for negotiation there. I will not be forgiving. If we lose to Port Vale, you are gone, bro. I'm driving up to London, yeah? I'm driving up there. And I'm getting you out, bro. I'm saying, sorry, Liam. You're a nice chap. Yeah? I'll drop you off back at Strasbourg. No chance. And look, like, if we fall apart and lose more games, he has to go. None of this, like, oh, even if he doesn't get I'm sorry, mate. And I'm not one of these content creators that call for the manager's heads. And incidentally, this is probably the most I've ever done it. And it's actually probably one of the managers I've liked the most, which really is messing with my brain. It's like some real paradoxical sugar. Do you know what I mean? I'm rooting for him, but if we fall apart, I'm getting someone in there to stick a rocket up the players, and also, I don't know. Someone needs to stick something up the sporting directors, mate. Do you know what I mean? All right, let's read on. There is no reason to doubt the sincerity of that stance, but events dictate outcomes, and the dual pain of regular losing and weekly ridicule is hard to overcome. Yeah, must suck for you, bro. Rosenior inherited a difficult situation, that's true. Chelsea's minimal pre-season had contributed to their injury problems and necessitated large-scale rotation, which has, in turn, exposed that the depth of this expensively assembled squad is nowhere near good enough as it needs to be to handle the added demands of Champions League with midweek football. Yes, absolutely. It's poor. It's not good at all, man. And to be fair, I do think, yeah, like, the rotation was needed. I think Maresca, part of the reason why he walked away, the suggestion is that he was being told when and when not to use Reece James. And to be fair, Reece James has been handled perfectly up until they played him for like 3 90 minutes in a row in like a week. And he's re-aggravated his injury. So they were handling him correctly before. So, you know, they deserve credit there in terms of the rotation for some. But you can't keep rotating your back line, man. You end up being a joke. There is still time and theoretical scope for Chelsea to halt their slide and summon an unlikely finishing kick in April and May. And we have done that before, finished strong. But it doesn't mean I'm going to be confident about next season unless we sign like loads of wicked senior high profile players. Beyond that, perhaps the summer of rest and recruitment can give Rosenior better conditions to succeed. Of course, obviously he hasn't had a pre-season either with the players. The danger right now is that performances and results over the next 2 months could make his position functionally untenable by then. Yeah, I feel like we're very close. Not even like, 2 months. I'm talking about like 2 games. I genuinely think he could lose 1-0 to Port Vale, right, and just be like, oh, I've just come back from international break. This is embarrassing. This is like Grimsby for me. And Man United, we're gonna have to forget about it. And then we get touched up 5-0 by Man City. You gotta go, bruv. There's just no way. There's no way you can carry on. There is no way. It's so toxic at Chelsea right now in the dressing room. And as nice as it is to hear Caicedo saying, I ain't going, I want to be a Chelsea legend, we've got Enzo Fernandez making kissy faces at Real Madrid. We've got players looking confused and frustrated. We've got no leadership on the pitch. We've got fans marching in the streets against the ownership and sporting hierarchy. It ain't good. These guys, and it won't be the last protest either. Rightly so. It will. While Chelsea is still bad, fans will still protest, and they will get bigger. I saw a funny social media post about the Strasbourg fans coming to join the protests on the 18th of April, Man United game at Stamford Bridge. Do you know how hated you have to be for like European away days for like the away fans to come and join the protest, which is really funny, but it's true, man. You literally got away fans coming to protest you. That's how much you've screwed up. That's how much you've upset people. If that happens, it will beg the question, is there a coach anywhere in the world? Jeremy Clarkson, top gear in the world. Or sufficient caliber, there's sufficient caliber, but the sporting directors won't freaking take him. Willing and able to work in the Chelsea structure. Change the ruddy structure, mate. Internal focus might finally need to turn to the structure itself. Yes, you freaking knobbers! Why did Pochettino seem wary as well as frustrated by the end of his 1 season at Chelsea? And why did Maresca seem so keen to force his way out of one of the football's most desirable and well-paid coaching jobs in the middle of a season without having another one lined up? Bars, Twomey! Spitting bars! Let me just do that again for those in the back with the crash zoom on. And why was Maresca so keen to force his way out of one of the most desirable jobs in football that's well paid in the middle of a season without having another one already lined up? Problems at Chelsea. But, well, one thing's true, the structure's unworkable, but also he wants to go to manage Man City, and they're lining him up. So he did snake us a bit. I ain't gonna have anything otherwise. He absolutely has. He never truly loved Chelsea that much, Maresca. Look, you can have your own opinion, you can disagree with me, but he never really connected to the fans massively. Chelsea was like a job of convenience for him. I think he wants to go home, inverted commas, back to Man City where he had multiple jobs. And, you have Guardiola and thinks the setup is better for that. And that's partly on Chelsea, not for creating a setup where you can stay there for ages, but I don't think there's too much love lost from Maresca. I think it's more of a case of another sacking of a coach who finally won us trophies, which is a stick to beat the hierarchy and ownership with, a very real stick, by the way. I'm not saying it's not a stick. It's a stick. There is a stick. It's a big, heavy stick, and they're being beaten with it rightly. But yeah, I'm not like crying for Maresca, who's like signing up with George Mendes and being like, "Ooh, let's line up this Man City job for me. Guardiola's successor, yes, please. I'll coach Haaland." You know, he's coached Haaland before as an assistant coach. Do you know what I mean? So I do think there's a little bit of we made it untenable for him, but also I do think he's sort of like there was a bit of snakiness there. My opinion, football's a game of opinions. Do you know what I mean? So you're entitled to yours. I'm entitled to mine. So there you go. But yeah, difficult questions can yield uncomfortable answers. Yep. Rosenior could still spare the people above him much introspection by breathing fresh life into the Chelsea season. But with every new defeat and with every brutal meme, his task gets harder and harder. Yep. It's a good piece. It's a highlight of where we are with the Chelsea hierarchy. If it doesn't work this time, they will have to change their model. And in the meantime, they're going to have to deal with Chelsea fans doing protests asking for the ownership to leave. They are going to have to deal with all the financial stuff, the stadium move, the unrest between the owners, all this kind of stuff. They're going to have to eat it and find a way to really navigate what's going on. You know? We're really at that point now where they're just going to have to be like, do some soul searching, look inside and be like, are we the bad guys? Like the meme, you know, the David and the Mitchell Webb meme or whatever. Are we the bad guys? They're going to have to do that. Yeah, so anyway, let me know what you think. I wanted to reflect on an Athletic article. Are we moving... what's your position? Like, if we lose a couple of games, do you sack Rosenior? Do you think the sporting directors will change? We've been talking about potential successors for Liam Rosenior in previous videos, so go check those out. In the meantime, thanks for joining me. This has sort of been a football therapy classique here, going for an Athletic long read. For those of you on YouTube, I upload every day, apart from yesterday. I had one day off. So if you want to support the content, thank you for liking and subscribing and dropping those hype points if you got them. And of course, on your podcast platforms, most notably Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I would really appreciate a follow and 5-star rating. I've got loads on Spotify. I'm really grateful for you guys for doing that. So thank you for following Football Therapy Podcast on your podcast apps and giving me a 5-star. It's tough out here for Chelsea fans at the moment, but, you know, I'll hopefully entertain and inform every day along the way, so I'm glad to have you with me. Stick along for the ride, and within a few, say, I don't know, a couple of months, 3 months, I'll be in a new property with new set design, possibly creative ideas for new content. Right, take care of yourselves. Peace out.